Collaborative Doctoral Landscape Awards information webinar. So we're really pleased to see so many people have joined the webinar this morning. It's really great to see the level of interest in the scheme. The day's presentations are going to be, there's going to be an introduction by my colleague Andrea Bond, who's going to give an overview of the scheme and the application process. And then we're also very pleased to welcome representatives from the current collaborative doctoral partnerships. Ollie is hopefully going to join us, who leads the coordination group. And then we've also got Joe Vine and Sarah Bacchianati with us as well to speak about their experience on the collaborative programme. That's the collaborative doctoral partnership programme, which is currently running. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Andrea. There will be time for questions at the end. So hopefully you'll get all the information you need at some point today.
Thank you, Sue. Good morning, everyone. For anybody who doesn't know who I am, and just to reiterate some of what Sue said, my name is Andrea and I work within the skills team at the Arts and Humanities Research Council, where I manage the Collaborative Doctoral Partnership Scheme and the commissioning of the Collaborative Doctoral Landscape Awards opportunity. Today I'm going to provide an overview on the characteristics of this funding opportunity before handing over to the current Collaborative Doctoral Partnership Coordination Group, as mentioned by Sue. They will provide an overview of what it's like to be an award holder, how students are engaged with the non-HEI and university partners on a collaborative project, along with an overview of their role. We will then finish with a question and answer session. So this will provide you time for you to ask AHRC staff any questions you have about this opportunity. Please note that there is an option to submit questions throughout the event using the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. I believe that this can be done anonymously if you prefer. We will answer the questions received during the Q&A section of this webinar to allow us to present to you all of the information we would like to share. And then just to note that while we may not be able to answer all of the questions during the session today, we will follow up any with responses afterwards. As you would have realised already, the webinar is being recorded and we will add this to the course specification on the UKRI funding finder following this event. So moving on to the overview of the scheme. To provide you with some context in which the scheme operates, in May 2022, UK Research and Innovation announced its transition to collective talent funding across all of its talent initiatives. This transition has led to the launch of the UKRI Doctoral Investment Framework, and in November 2023. This has meant that from January 2024, all UKRI doctoral support has been framed around two types of awards. One being Doctoral Landscape Awards and the other being Doctoral Focal Awards. The Collective Talent Fund is the framework within which we collaborate with other research councils, and this is why the opportunity is named Collaborative Doctoral Landscape Awards. And this aligns with similar opportunities across UKRI and the other research councils. So just briefly, Doctoral Landscape Awards offer broad, flexible funding and fosters various forms of engagement with non-academic partners. And so the Collaborative Landscape Awards fall under this category, but they also follow the same model as that used for the Collaborative Doctoral Partnership Scheme, currently in its fourth round. There have been some minor changes to the core to help widen participation, but it's pretty much the same. So the Collaborative Doctoral Landscape Awards are designed to support non-HEI organisations to deliver doctoral training in partnership with higher education institutions for the next generation of arts and humanities researchers. These training partnerships aim to identify and address short and long-term skills challenges, foster interdisciplinarity between the cultural, creative and heritage sectors with academia and other employers. The overall aim of this opportunity is to support a high standard of collaborative research training through giving non-HEIs greater autonomy in the selection of doctoral projects they would like to support and supervise, providing non-HEIs, individual organisations and consortia with a firm funding horizon of collaborative doctoral awards to support their research training strategy, and then developing enhanced programmes of doctoral study that provide students with career development opportunities outside the standard academic route. as well as fostering collaboration between collaborative doctoral landscape award holding organisations and consortia in the development of wider training and development opportunities for the doctoral students they support. So you may see that the list is done in different colours, but there is no difference in the importance to all of those areas highlighted. They all have equal importance. So to touch upon the eligibility requirements around the organisations, to apply for this scheme, you must be from a UK non-HEI organisation. So this can be any type of organisation in the UK that has a research capacity to host doctoral students, including a wide range of creative and cultural organisations contributing to arts and humanities research. Examples include galleries, libraries, museum and archives, the creative industries, public and third sector organisations, and university, museum and galleries or other HEI managed organisations. Non-HEIs do not need to have held awards under the CDP scheme or have independent research organisation status to be eligible. But those who have not, who don't have this status or haven't been in receipt of UKRI funding before will be required to go under a due diligence check. This will happen when your application has been submitted. To be clear, the application must be from a non-HEI organisation, either as an individual organisation, as a consortia of non-HEI organisations. This is ideal for those who do not have the capacity to host the 3 studentships per year. Consortia applications must make sure there's a clear rationale for holding a single allocation between them, so that will be required as part of the application process. And then with a university partner, this option is open to smaller non-HEIs or those with less experience of supporting doctoral students. Again, these applicants will need to demonstrate why this arrangement will enable them to participate in the scheme in a way that applying alone or as part of a consortium would not, and the non-HEI, again, must be the lead partner. And I also just want you to note that the consortia collaborative doctoral landscape partners may be thematically focused or regionally or geographically focused, and that it is permitted for a non-HEI to be part of more than one consortium. However, that mostly relates to where a department wishes to be part of a different thematic consortium to the rest of an organisation. But a single department may only be part of one consortium. And so that means if you are a non-HEI organisation that has multiple different departments and they are not working together within this scheme, they can then apply separately with different partners. Whereas if you are, say, a library that's not broken down into all these individual departments, you will only be able to submit one application. All collaborative doctoral landscape studentship projects must align with the non-HEI organisation's priorities and delivered in partnership with a university partner. So these collaborative projects should be characterised by excellent research, a high quality training environment, and a focus on student experience. So this opportunity is open to our current award holders, previous award holders, and non-HEI organisations who have never had AHRC training grant funding before. So talking of the funding, so just going to highlight some key points on the scheme. AHRC is intending to offer up to 50 studentships per year for 4 years through the scheme. We may need to adjust these numbers to meet the requirements of the funding opportunity and to balance our overall studentship portfolio. However, our aim is to allocate the 50 studentships per year. So the number of awards will depend on the size and quality of the applications we receive, and during our CDP4 call, we managed to fund 15 CDP organisations in the last round. You can apply for a minimum of 3 studentships per year. This can be reduced to 2 in exceptional circumstances. And this should be stated during your application. This is all clearly laid out in the funding finder text. This will need to be justified in relation to your track record or engagement in postgraduate training and research. And it may be necessary for AHRC to award fewer studentships than requested to achieve a balanced portfolio. All doctoral projects will need to be within AHRC's remit. If you've got any questions about remit, you can check this on the UKRI website. And the first cohort students will start in October 2027. Equality, diversity and inclusion is an important element of this opportunity and the application and assessment process. So AHRC is committed to promoting the values of equality of opportunity, diversity and inclusivity with the ambition to increase the diversity of our research community, especially our funded doctoral student population. Additionally, we want to be reassured that all postgraduate students will be part of an inclusive environment and receive the support they need. So applicants are therefore required to submit an equality, diversity and inclusion action plan as part of their application process. This is your opportunity to outline how you will embed the core principles of EDI at all levels and across all aspects of the Collaborative Doctoral Landscape Award. The EDI action plan should be evidence-based, and we'd encourage you to use the following headings. So focusing on increasing PhD access, including recruitment practices, working practices, including individualized student support, supervision and supervisory teams, monitoring and evaluation, including a baseline and plans for improvements. We will require Collaborative Doctoral Landscape Award grant holders to monitor these arrangements across the consortium partners, if applicable, to enable it to review the effectiveness and openness of its recruitment process and strategies for student support. All details regarding the EDI elements of the application, again, should be detailed within the application information on the funding finder. So to touch upon the application and assessment process, all applications will need to be made via the funding service. You may need to create an account, and if your organisation isn't listed, you will need to email the support funding service email address, and you would need to allow at least 10 working days for the account to be set up. Once you have an account, TFS will take you through the questions listed in the funding finder, and you'll be able to save and come back to it as much as you need to. The assessment criteria within this funding opportunity are as follows. The vision of the proposed training grant, what it will achieve and how this will support UK capability and capacity needs, and why it's important for AHRC to support this. Within the approach, all practicalities on how you will deliver it and what you will offer your students, and how you will ensure effective project development and supervisory selection for the studentships. It will also ask you to explain how you will create and maintain an inclusive and supportive culture and environment for those involved, and you will need to demonstrate capability to deliver. So who will lead and drive the delivery of the vision? We are also asking that organisational support is clearly outlined, so a statement of support from your research organisation detailing how they will support you and the proposed activities should be submitted. This should demonstrate the organisation's commitment to postgraduate research, its commitment to supporting the staff involved in student supervision, and any specific additional support or resources not otherwise mentioned in their application. So the assessment criteria, their description and questions to guide you in writing your application to meet the criteria are available on the funding service. As highlighted on the slide, the closing date for the application is the 20th of November 2025. There is no written expert review stage for this funding opportunity. However, we will invite a panel of experts to review your application against the assessment areas and criteria which are listed on the slide as well as in the funding finder. We plan to share the panel members' comments with applicants in February 2026, and you will have 10 working days to respond to these via the UK Research Innovation Funding Service. The panel meeting is expected to be held in late March or early April 2026. This needs to be confirmed, but and during this meeting, the panel of experts will use your initial application and your responses to assess the quality of your application and rank it alongside other applicants. The panel will then make a funding recommendation to AHRC. However, it's important to note that the AHRC, as part of this process, may need to undertake portfolio balancing to enable regional and institutional diversity of awards. Following this process, the AHRC will then make the final funding decisions and aim to provide outcomes in the summer of 2026. So that is everything from me. I don't know if Ollie's here. Is Ollie here?
I am here.
Excellent. So I'm just going to introduce you, Ollie. So as part of the Collaborative Landscape Awards, we have an independent coordination group, which is a central component of the collaborative, which will also be a central component of the Collaborative Doctoral Landscape Awards. Its purpose is to enhance the training and development opportunities available to students and share good practice among grant holders. So we expect all successful non-HEIs and consortia to work together within this group. So if you apply and you are successful, that will be one of the requirements of your award. The coordination group will deliver cohort development and training to students, enabling them to develop their research, build their careers, network and support partner organisations, and to shape the future of the UK sector in which they work. It aims to build a community of students from across the different collaborative doctoral landscape cohorts and the diverse organisations involved in the scheme. So as part of this, we will provide additional funding to support the student cohort development through the coordination group activities. So this is a separate award, which goes straight to the coordination group. I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Oliver Cox, who is the head of academic partnerships at the V&A Museum and the current project lead for the CDP4 coordination group. Over to you, Ollie. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a second.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, Andrea. Okay. I will just share my screen now. 1 second. Oh, sorry, 1 second, everyone. Great. Hopefully everyone can see that. I'm going to take silence as a yes and proceed. Thank you ever so much, Andrea and colleagues from AHRC, for giving us the opportunity this morning just to share with you some of the work that the collaborative, the CDP consortium, some of the work that we do in support of this scheme, and also you'll be hearing from 2 of our award holders. So really thrilled that both Sarah Bacchianti from National Museums Northern Ireland and Joe Vine from the East of England consortium are here to talk in particular from the perspective of being a new award holder for CDP4. We have about 15 minutes in which we're going to talk you through some of the things that we get up to, and then also you'll be able to hear from the perspective from 2 recent award holders. So just to kick off, what is the cohort coordination group? We are an AHRC funded team. Thanks very much, guys. 1.6 FTE based at the Victoria and Albert Museum. And we have responsibility for working with the 15 CDP award holders and also those organisations that still have students pursuing their projects through CDP3. And I think there might be one CDP tour still out there that we also provide support for. We work to deliver 4 key work streams. The first of which you've heard mentioned already is the cohort development program, and we're really excited about this as an opportunity to bring together the PhD researchers from across the 15 organisations to meet in person to build that sense of cohort. And this is a program that's really geared towards providing our researchers with a really broad portfolio of professional skills that will enable them to thrive in whichever future career path they decide to take. The second is that we coordinate and nurture the relationship between award-holding institutions and the AHRC. Our our third area of interest is very much around EDI, and we are very fortunate to have a scheme coordinator for EDI, Na Anima Boateng, who is on the call with us today, and we'll touch a little bit upon some of the work that we've been doing in the last 18 months to really bolster our EDI provision. And the final area is, as I mentioned, really trying to foster that diverse talent pipeline required for arts and humanities research to thrive. We know, thanks to the brilliant work that the previous coordination group lead, JD Hill, head of research at the British Museum, that JD led on, that we've got some really interesting statistics in terms of what the current and past portfolio of our researchers looks like, and we'd be delighted to share that more widely in due course. And just to say that across the past 3 intake years, we are funding through this scheme 156 PhD projects across those 15 different cultural organisations and consortia. So that's coming out at about 52 a year, spread across all of the different award holding organisations. And just with reference to Andrea's point about numbers earlier, I think what's quite striking is that there is a level of continuity of investment within this scheme. This is to give you a sense of the 44 organisations who are part of the consortium. As mentioned earlier, award holders.
Ollie,
Yep.
really sorry to interrupt, but we can. You've got it in a sort of early view, and we can only see the title slide at the moment.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh gosh. Okay. Sorry. I'll just.
So
Sorry, everyone. I'll just
it
start
did
again.
come up as slideshow, and then it reverted back to a sort of more draft format. So.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Apologies for that. Let's. Can you all see that on the current slide that should have pictures of our current consortium organisations?
Yeah, that's working now, I think.
Perfect,
Yeah, thank
perfect, great. So these are our current members of the consortium. So as you can see, we have a mixture of big nationals and then slightly smaller organisations working together in pursuit of supporting our brilliant cohort of researchers. I want to touch upon a couple of other key areas before handing over to colleagues. The first is our cohort development events. And what I'm sharing with you here is the programme for 2024, the academic year 2024-2025, just to give you a bit of a sense of the depth and breadth of what we are able to programme. We welcome each new cohort of roughly 50 students with a 2-day in-person induction event, which we feel really sets the tone for the next 4 years of their full-time PhD journey or 8 years of a part-time journey. We then look to organise at least 3 in-person events for the wider cohort. That's the roughly, kind of 200 PhD researchers currently in flight through this scheme. We look to organise at least 3 in-person events a year. Now, due to budget constraints, we can't enable everyone to attend each event, but we are confident that we are reaching a wider range of participants. So just to give you a sense of some of the themes, we've done 2 days on how to make exhibitions, and that was hosted by us at the V&A, but in partnership with colleagues at the Wellcome Trust and the British Library. We've recently returned from Northern Ireland after a fantastic 2 days with Sarah and her team at National Museums NI, and just next month we'll be heading out to Cambridge to explore community collaborations through partners from the East of England consortium. So at this point, it's worth mentioning that one of our expectations from the coordination group is that CDP award holders will commit a degree of in-kind resource to supporting cohort development events. Another area that we explore is our work in progress events, and these are lighter touch opportunities for our researchers to present their projects in a more casual environment. Often we see people using these as almost test runs ahead of transfer of status or upgrade interviews, and we support these to happen every 4 to 6 weeks across a number of locations around the UK. Apologies for a bit of background noise. I'm at Keele University today. Just to share with you some of the key points around our budget and where the majority of our spend goes, we're able to support 138 person days of training per academic year. That's calculated on about a £300 per person assumption, so including travel, overnight accommodation, and subsistence. We will in due course be redeveloping our website to take account of the fact that we will be the Collaborative Doctoral Landscape Awards coordination group from 2026 onwards. Another significant area of our activity is we understand that as a coordination group, we need to be responsive and reactive to the needs of our researchers and our research community. So, for example, we offer the researcher-led activity fund at 2 points per year, and that's to enable our researchers to develop sort of smaller scale events that are researcher led with the support of professional staff across the CDP award holding organizations. To touch briefly upon our EDI work, and again to just really emphasize the significance of the work that our colleague Nyanama Boateng is doing in leading this, we are working towards a consortium-wide EDI strategy. We will be conducting EDI-specific inductions for new supervisors for the next academic year, and thinking also about the training offer available. We have been working closely with doctoral training partnerships on this over the past 6 to 9 months. And as the DTPs dissolve and reform and reconstitute themselves into hubs, we will make sure that we are sharing best practice across and between the various AHRC investments. Just to note at the bottom, the cross DTP EDI conference was really a fantastic event. For those of you thinking of applying to the Collaborative Doctoral Landscape Scheme for the first time, please do get in touch with us as the central coordination team. We will be able to, because we will be doing this with current award holders, we'll be sharing with you where we've got to with the central strategy around EDI, which will be a pillar against which you can push and pull depending upon your local priorities as an organization. And please do get in contact with us if you have any questions about the scheme. Our role over the next 6 to 9 months is to really support as wide a range of organizations to feel confident and excited about applying for this really brilliant opportunity. And then just to mention, a lot of this work is going to be informed through a series of researcher focus groups, which have just concluded earlier this week, that has given us some really fantastic and at times deeply disturbing and unsettling qualitative information about the experiences of PhD researchers from a range of different backgrounds. And we will be using this to inform our strategy going forward. Just finally to say, what do our CDP students look like according to the data, and compared to other UKRI funded PhD studentships, CDP, or soon to be Collaborative Doctoral Landscape Award researchers, are more likely to identify as a woman. They're more likely to be older when they start their studies, and they're more likely to have professional experience to bring with them, and they're much less likely to have applied for other PhD studentships. So we're very, very confident that collaborative studentships bring different people into postgraduate research, and that's something that we'll look to continue to strive towards and implement over the coming years. Just to speak briefly about CDP student trajectories, and again, we're indebted to JD Hill's work here in looking at the trajectories of our former students. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the most popular career destinations are the GLAM and heritage sector, followed by higher education. But since 2017, we've also seen increasing numbers of former students working in government, media, and some other third sector organizations. We are very, very keen to further kind of inculcate a sense of cohort amongst our alumni community, because we're approaching 20 years this year since the first iteration of collaborative PhDs funded by AHRC, or ARB, or AHRB as it wasn't back in the day, and so tracking those career trajectories through over the past 20 years. Some people are in very interesting and influential positions now. That's it from me. I'm going to hand over to colleagues, and we're going to start with Sarah from National Museums Northern Ireland. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and pass over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Ollie.
Or Joe, whoever's first.
Joe, if you want to go first, you can go.
I don't mind, as my slide is up, shall I go?
Yeah, you go, Joe.
Okay. So I'm Jo Vine. I'm admin lead of the Collections and Communities in the East of England Consortium, which covers most of the University of Cambridge collections, as well as 3 local authority partners across the East of England. So we work with Norfolk Museum Service, Colchester and Ipswich Museums, as well as Peterborough Museum and Art Gallery. And together we hold about 20 million items across lots of disciplines and types of collections, including art, anthropology, archives, books, house museums, living collections, and natural and social history. As Andrea mentioned, we joined the CDP for the first time in the last round, and as a consortium, lots of the organisations had experience of hosting individual collaborative doctoral award students through CDAs, but it was the first time for us to have our own CDP. As new applicants, I think it's quite fair to say that it was a daunting process initially applying to CDP4. It took us several months of gradual development as we researched student-focused activities in other CDPs, in doctoral training partnerships, and also tried to understand more about what good practice in doctoral training provision looked like. We engaged with our partners really early on in that process, and together we tried to identify what our unique identity is. For us, as you can see on screen, it clusters around our geographic approach and having a consortium that's based across the East of England. But we then worked together across the consortium to identify themes that worked for the different collections, as well as establishing a couple of methodologies that we were keen to foreground. In our case, we were really keen to work on interdisciplinary methodologies, given the breadth of collections, as well as more participatory ones. I think it's fair to say that one of the best parts of the CDP for us has been being part of the CDP consortium. It's an incredibly supportive community who have welcomed us and shared their expertise, making what could have been a really daunting setup process into something that's clearly explained, with lots of guidance and shared documents. We meet several times a year to discuss the programme. There's an in-person and online series of events. And these meetings are complemented by an online community, the Knowledge Hub, where we all post questions about the programme, and other consortium members always have incredibly helpful answers. There is nearly always someone who has had the same problem in the past who can advise how they've managed to work out that problem. It's also been brilliant to have the opportunity to meet regularly with the other CDP holding organisations and just sharing good practice across the different organisations. And this can often go beyond the CDP into how we might work together as collections. For us, having dedicated coordination support has been really crucial. There are times of the year when I think it's particularly busy, so I'm just getting into sort of the flow of what a CDP year looks like. But during the autumn, we all tend to be working between the collections and the academic HEIs on encouraging expressions of interest and then providing facilitation of the full applications. In February and March, it tends to be about getting the projects into the funding service and then advertising the studentships. And then around about now each year, we're now being part of the interview process for the students as well. And then as those students come in October, we'll be doing some onboarding work for them. In terms of other benefits for us, having the ability as part of the University of Cambridge to include studentships with our own HEI has really enabled us to have flexibility to work with the right HEI supervisor on each project, and not has been in previous CDP rounds where there was a restriction around that. I thought it also might be helpful to mention how the management of the award works in such a large consortium. So we're University of Cambridge plus the 3 regional collections. So we have a management board that has representation from across the consortium to keep kind of the senior managers engaged and on board. But we then also work closely with individuals across the collections to encourage them to develop projects. And then Sarah, my colleague, and I work with them to offer one-to-one support when they're developing of the projects. Certainly for us, we've found that one barrier to individual collection supervisors putting forward projects can be a lack of confidence. So we've really tried to put in place lots of support throughout the process to enable everyone to feel that they can be part of this. And once we've awarded projects, we regularly check in with our current supervisors, again, trying to provide that kind of support. Whilst it's still early days for us, as our first cohort of students didn't actually start until just over 6 months ago, our first cohort of students is really becoming embedded in the collections. And I think the embedded nature of the CDP programme versus some others like CDAs that are perhaps less embedded has been really valuable in opening up important parts of collections that are really nationally significant, but individuals just didn't maybe have the skills or the research expertise or the time to be able to look at them in detail. For instance, at Peterborough Museum, they have a really understudied but important collection of items relating to a local prisoner of war camp, and research that our CDP student, supported by the museum supervisor and their HEI supervisor, Anglia Ruskin University, has been doing, that is giving them some dedicated time investigating this collection and also supporting the museum to do some wide advocacy work that they had wanted to do. And the supervisor keeps mentioning how valuable and interesting they're finding this CDP for the museum's wider work. So to summarise, it's a really rewarding programme to work on, and we're really looking forward to seeing our second cohort of students start in the autumn. So I'll hand over to Sarah now.
Thank you, Jo. Mine is more like of a matter-of-fact approach to CDP. It's been a positive experience. It requires quite a bit of work, so I think it's something to be aware of, and I'll be discussing in a few minutes. But National Museums Northern Ireland is a national museum, and unlike all the other national museums, you might be more familiar with. We're a fairly small national museum compared to others, and we're not an IRO, so we're not an independent research organization. And for the first time, the collaborative doctoral partnerships were open to non-IROs. That required a bit of work on my behalf as well as the AHRC, and it's something that I advise if you're not an IRO, as Andrea mentioned earlier, please make sure that you're registered on the UKRI funding service. Give it time, do it as soon as possible. You might not apply for the landscape awards, but at least you have your museum, your organization available on the UKRI funding service. The sooner it's done, the better it is. As Joe mentioned, and as Oliver talked about, the CDP Consortium is an invaluable resource. So please do get in touch with them if you're planning on applying. Get in touch with other award holder organizations that currently have a collaborative doctoral partnership award, because we can explain the role of the organization in setting up the scheme and what it entails, what it requires throughout the year, admin-wise, as well as we do a lot of pastoral kind of care, both of supervisor as well as students. One thing that was really useful for me when I was applying for the collaborative doctoral partnership is to really look into the research focus of the organization. Some organization might have a research policy or a research strategies. Some smaller organizations do not have it. So do sit down with your senior management team and think about research and what research is within your organization, what the priority are, and what priorities within those priorities you want to really focus on for your collaborative landscape award application. Unlike Joe, I didn't have many months to apply for collaborative doctoral partnership. I had 6 weeks because I was hired to be in post at National Museums and I 6 weeks before the deadline. So I do not recommend it. It is feasible. I do not recommend it to do it so fast, especially because, as I said, there are a few admin steps that need to be sure that work, such as the UKRI funding service, and also kind of putting in places all the internal relationships linked to this application. One thing that is important if you are applying is really to think about your capacity for managing the award. Some bigger organizations have bigger research offices where there's one person in particular that is in charge just of the collaborative PhDs. Other organizations like myself, it's just me. I look after the whole of the research within the organization, and on top of that, of the collaborative doctoral partnership. So have really the buy-in from your organization, but also from your line manager, so that they are aware of the amount of work, because it is quite a bit of work managing the studentships as well as the supervisors and being part of the consortium. But all in all, as Joe said, it is a positive experience, especially for a non-IRO that is kind of dipping their toes into leading research projects rather than just partnering on research projects. Thank you. Are you muted, Andrea?
Sorry, apologies. I was just saying thank you to yourself, Joe and Oliver, for sharing that information. I think it's actually really beneficial and will hopefully have maybe answered some of the questions that might come up. So we're just going to move over to the question and answer section now. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand over to my colleague, Chi-Chi, who's going to be facilitating the Q&A.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. So we do have 17 questions, and I'll be taking them from the top. The first question is, can small and micro non-HEI partners with HEIs for the supervision accept aspects of the core? Can small, micro non-HEI partner with HEIs for the supervision aspect of the core?
Okay, so as an applicant, if it's a small non-HEI that hasn't had much experience before, needs to partner with HEI in order to get that to tap into that postgraduate support, then that's not a problem. You can do that. You just can't quite grasp whether you can do that as multiple. When you say micro, is it just that you're a small organization, or you're looking to ask whether multiple small micro organizations can apply as a consortium in partnership with a HEI? I wonder if I don't think we can get.
I think there are probably two options if you're a small non-HEI organisation which perhaps you haven't applied before. I think one is to be part of a consortium with other non-HEI organisations, so it's possible for you to do that. If you don't feel that's the right option for you, then it is possible for you to partner with a HEI. And the role of the HEI in that case would be to kind of enable that, to give you that sort of track record support, so that additional support to ensure that the students are supported in the way that we would expect them to be on an AHRC funded award, but that's at the CDP level. But it's also worth bearing in mind that all the individual students will be partnerships between the CDP organisation and a university partner. So all of the projects are HI, non-HI collaborative projects. So I think that might answer the placement part of it, because I think you'll be working in partnership with a HI throughout the individual student projects.
Thank you. There are two supporting questions. I don't know if to read them as well, and they might produce more context to the initial question.
Just before you do, Chi, I just think to add to that, and I don't know if this is relevant, and it might be the way that I read the question, is that you're not able to apply as a consortia of small micro non-HEIs in partnership with a university. You can apply as a consortium of non-HEIs or as a non-HEI in partnership with a university. That's correct, isn't it, Sue? Yeah.
Okay. And can the small stroke micro non-HEI partner with a larger non-HEI for the placement or practical experience part of the call? So I think and there's a third sub question as well. So it might be worth just reading all of them, and then it'll just provide more context, I guess. So the next one is, could both of the elements be combined in one call, i.e. a small micro non-HEI leading the bid in collaboration with one or two HEIs and one or two non-HEIs?
I think for the last part, that was what I was just covering, is that the answer to that part of it would be no, because of the two routes in which smaller non-HEIs can apply. In terms of also in terms of placements, as Sue has mentioned, because the projects are in collaboration with a university partner and as a collaborative landscape award holder, even if you are partnered with a university, that the studentships in which you receive, only a notional number of those will be able to be utilised by that university. The remainder would need to be in partnership with universities outside of that partnership. So you will be partnering with other HEIs in terms of where the student is based and where their project's taking place. And that opens up the possibility of working with others. And you can also organise or utilise work with other non-HEI for placement activities.
Thank you. The next question is, how do the CDPs relate to the landscape awards, please? Will both continue to exist?
So you're talking about doctoral landscape awards? Yes. So the collaborative doctoral partnerships are obviously currently live and will still be in process for quite a long time, but they will still link to the collaborative landscape awards as well. Both the landscape awards and the hubs that are being implemented will work alongside the collaborative doctoral landscape awards. So they will all work in existence with each other, just like we have with the CDP scheme and the doctoral partnership scheme. And they all fall under our future doctoral provision initiative, which we've published a number of years ago now.
Thank you. So are private HEs providers considered non-HEI? So higher education providers considered non-HEI?
I think we're going to have to take that one away. Could the person who raised that contact us individually with their particular circumstances, and we'll see if we can provide an answer with that one. So yeah, I'm afraid I can't answer that one at the moment, but if you contact us, we'll provide you with an answer.
Thank you. So can I just clarify that this will be 50 studentships overall per year, i.e. across all awards made?
Yes, there is 50 studentships available, up to 50 studentships available per year for 4 years, and that's across all of the CDs. That will be across all of the investments made through this opportunity.
What counts as exceptional circumstances for the purpose of allowing 2 rather than 3 minimum?
So I would say that this relates to the much smaller, less experienced non-HEIs looking to apply. We have found feedback from our current CDP award holders that for some organisations, 3 studentships per year can be quite difficult to support and resource. So it would really be down to the institution to detail the rationale as to why they believe they could only provide support for 2 studentships per year as opposed to the 3 threshold that we set for the majority of the award holders.
Thank you. If a charity is eligible for AHRC funding as an IRO, is it still eligible to apply as a non-HEI organization?
Yes.
Thanks. Can a consortium composed of more than one individual organization still partner with HEI, or is the partnership with HEI only for one individual organization with limited experience of PGR management? Also, is the instance of such partnerships between industry and HEI who awards the title?
Okay, I think that's very similar to the one that we had initially, in that in terms of this call, a consortia of smaller non-HEIs would apply together, but not in partnership with a university. The requirements for this call is that if you can apply either as a consortium, or you can apply as a much smaller, less experienced organisation in partnership with a university partner. So I would say, I think that answers the question.
Thank you. The next one is, what financial and in-kind support is required to make a credible bid, including support from HEI?
Okay, we don't set a minimum requirement in terms of in-kind support, and we, you know, because in-kind support can be calculated in many different ways. So you would need to just clearly outline in your proposal what support you can give to the students, and to work with the CDP consortium as part of your application. And then in terms of financial support, we don't require a mandatory amount for these applications, but what we do encourage and would expect is that there is some financial support provided to the student directly from the award holding organisation to assist with the additional costs that they incur, for example, travelling between their HEI and the non-HEI organisation, especially as many non-HEIs tend to be located in or around London. So that's where the financial element would come. I mean, at the moment, the average kind of amount provided per student per year in that sense is around £1,000.
Could I perhaps also invite Oliver to say kind of what the sort of expectation is in terms, or what their experience is in terms of the sorts of in-kind support that organisations tend to need to provide to make these work, as it were?
Thanks, and I'll pick up on something that both Joe and Sarah mentioned, which is that being able to ring fence a percentage of someone's time to act as a coordinator within the organisation is really, really important, because there are a number of crunch points in the CDP year where having that sort of single point of responsibility is very, very helpful. So you see what we would expect, and I think this will come on to another question later on in the Q&A, is that applicants for the Collaborative Doctoral Landscape Award Scheme will need to demonstrate the way in which they will be able to manage this either within the existing staffing that they have, or plans to provide additional resource to support the scheme. There isn't money the AHRC to support coordination at a local level. The other thing, in terms of the kinds of in-kind support that from the coordination group, we're eager to benefit from, it's a couple of things. One, it is the staff time of and expertise of colleagues within those organizations to help us to participate in the kind of annual events of the coordination group. So that includes monthly business meetings, to biannual away days. There is always an online provision, but it's lovely to see people in person where possible. The final area that we would ask for contribution is often around space. So do you have a meeting room that would be available for students to book to host a work in progress event? If we were to do a sort of 30-person event, are we able to use your rooms for free? Of course, we would cover the central coordination team can cover catering costs, additional security costs, things like that. So it's so that's the again, we don't put a financial figure upon it. We also understand that it's a kind of it's a graduated thing depending upon the size and capacity of organizations in question. So we recognize that there are some within the consortium that are better resourced than others, and we can cut our cloth accordingly.
Thank you, Ollie. The next question is the focus on cultural and collection type organizations or other types of organizations, e.g. like a policy, research bodies, or legal research organizations?
Yes, it's not confined to only cultural organizations. I think it depends on what it is that you know, the research areas and your organization's research strategy and how that links to arts and humanities. It's about being able to demonstrate that, and that any studentship, if you were to be successful, how that then falls within the AHRC's remit. So the key here is whether or not the research that you'd be looking to develop through this process falls within the AHRC's remit.
Thank you. I'll just rush through the last couple of ones because we have some of them have been answered already anyway. So can AHRC confirm that CDAs will still be possible within the new HEI-led doctoral landscape scheme? Does AHRC monitor the number and outcomes of the current CDAs within the HEI-led DTCs?
Okay, so yes, collaborative doctoral awards are still possible through the AHRC's landscape awards. So any organisations hoping to continue or start that process would need to be in contact with those who've got a landscape award. Sorry, what was the second bit, Chi-Chi?
We moved on. So does the AHRC monitor the number and outcomes of the current CDAs within HEI-led DTCs?
We have our annual reporting process where our investments do provide information to us, and that does include for under the current DTPs the number of CDAs that they allocate through their award.
Thank you. So the next one is, are there thematic priorities that AHRC is more likely to be interested in funding?
No, we've not put a steer in there for it to be thematic based. There's nothing to stop an applicant having a thematic based collaborative landscape award, but we haven't specifically stated that we want them in particular areas, so we wouldn't have any kind of portfolio balancing in that respect.
Could I just quickly jump in from a coordination group perspective there, and as someone that's also submitted one of these applications in the past, I think go by institutional need. It's what gaps within your current research landscape or your current research objectives might the collaborative doctoral landscape award scheme enable you to fill.
Thank you. I'll just call on Jamie Kerr, if you don't mind. This question pertains to TFS. If you'd like to answer the next one. Thanks, Jamie. The question is, does the TFS account need to be institutional, I have a TFS individual account, and as the lead applicant, I wondered if I could use my individual account, or if it would be better to create an institutional account.
You could use your individual, but yes, I would advise to create an institutional account.
Okay.
Just to
Thank
make
you.
everything beyond throughout the process of the funding opportunity a lot easier to process.
Thank you. So the next one is, do the non-HEI receive any funding to manage and support the doctoral projects?
No, the way in which the award works is the Collaborative Landscape Award. Those who are successful will receive a notional number of studentships for the 4 cohorts over the 4 years, but we do not provide any financial funding to support the management of that award.
And I just one additional point as well that relates to some of the some earlier conversations. It's also worth just emphasising that an additional area of in-kind commitment would be staff time to co-supervise projects for either the 4-year full-time or 8-year part-time duration. At the V&A, we think that equates to about 0.05 FTE if you want to go down that route. So, you know, a couple of hours a week, but it's really important in terms of the student experience that there is continuity and commitment from partner co-supervisors.
Thank you. Can you apply as an arts organization that also offers HE taught degrees but without degree awarding powers?
I'm going to hand over to Sue on that one. I think we might need to take that one away.
Yeah, that's similar to the earlier question, I think, about private providers. So it'd be if that person wouldn't mind contacting us individually, and then we can look into that in individual circumstances. So I also think, I'm afraid we are going to need to draw the webinar to a close. Andrea, do you want to formally close?
Yes, sure. So yes, I was just going to do the same, Sue, just to highlight that we are now at the end of the webinar. So apologies if we've not been able to reach your question. Like I advised earlier in the presentation, we will take away all of the questions received today, and if there are any that have been unanswered, we will seek to answer them. We will also have a recording, share this recording on our funding finder page, along with some a Q&A document. So hopefully all of the information will be available there. If you haven't received an answer to your question, you can contact us directly at, using the skills@ahrc.ukri.org email account, and we will seek to answer you as soon as possible. So before closing, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Oliver, Joe, and Sarah for joining us today. It's been hugely helpful, and to thank you all for your attendance and interest. That's everything from me.
Bye.